Hello, I'm Mi Yoon from the Department of American Cuisine. Today is May 28th, and let's start today's American Cuisine news. Today as well, I'm Mi Yoon, here to deliver the latest updates on the United States stock market without any changes. Today, I will make sure to deliver the most important announcements in a concise and clear way. If you look at the beginning of the video that I upload every day, there is an explanation. If you expand this section, you'll find links to join the private online member group with me, as well as pages promoting various United States stock-related platforms that I collaborate with, including Mijin Channel. You can receive the promotional link for Kim In-jung's representative's collaboration with Choice Stocks through this section, and below that, you'll also find the link to the investing.com free premium membership promotion. Today, I have an important announcement related to InvestingPro that I wanted to share with you in a short video. I recently received an email from InvestingPro. Many of you may already know this. In Korea, we were able to enjoy a 50% discount, but now this discount rate will be reduced to 30%. The reason for this is that recently, the price of InvestingPro has been significantly lowered. Originally, the regular price for InvestingPro for 1 year was 175,000 won and 438,000 won, but this time, the prices have been significantly adjusted. So now for InvestingPro, the annual subscription is 139,000 won, and for Pro Plus, it's been lowered to 349,000 won. So even for existing subscribers in Korea and the United States, the 50% discount is not the maximum. To explain, as you can see here, if you sign up now, the annual subscription for InvestingPro is not 69,000 won, and for Pro Plus, it's not 174,000 won either. So I received information this time that it's difficult to continue offering such a 50% discount. So today is May 28th, and the 50% discount will only be applied until May 31st. After that, only a 30% discount will be offered to existing subscribers at the end of the period, so please keep that in mind. So for those who were considering joining InvestPro or InvestPro Plus, I want to emphasize once again that you need to sign up by May 31st to receive the 50% discount. Everyone, are you curious about the differences between InvestPro and InvestPro Plus? It may look the same when you see this chart, but if you look at the very last part here, you'll see that there are features that are included and some that are not. That's the difference. And now, InvestPunk has its own artificial intelligence called Warren Artificial Intelligence, and it also has artificial intelligence clipping features. Here, with InvestPunk Pro, you can only ask up to 50 questions, but with InvestPunk Pro Plus, you can ask up to 500 questions per month, so you can get answers to a much wider variety of questions and organize your information more efficiently. Personally, I don't use InvestPunk much on American broadcasts, and that's because InvestPunk's biggest strengths are tailored to Korean investors. The articles are in Korean, but I also use a lot of foreign media now. So, when I directly look at sites like CNBC, Bloomberg, Barron's, or Reuters from the United States and translate them myself, I end up using InvestPunk a bit less compared to other sites. But among you, are there any members who don't speak English? Through InvestPunk, you can access various United States stock-related content in Korean. So if you sign up for the membership with a 50% discount by May 31st, you'll be able to take advantage of this opportunity. Now, let's get right into today's United States stock news for May 28th. Today as well, I'll summarize the key points of the United States stock market for you. Let's take a look at the S&P 500 chart first. Most of the map is filled with a very bright color, and you don't really see any dark colors. So overall, all sectors and all stocks moved up together, and especially the green color stands out. So it's not just that the market's breadth has widened, but there were a lot of stocks that made sharp gains, especially in the tech sector, which performed very well. Let's take a look at the major indices of the United States stock market. At the very top, you can see the S&P 500. Small cap stocks rose by 2.54%, performing the best. The second best performing sector was the Nasdaq 100. Tech stocks are concentrated in the Nasdaq 100, which rose by 2.35%. So yesterday, cyclical stocks and tech stocks related to the Nasdaq performed well. That's how the summary goes. Let's take a closer look at the sector-by-sector performance of the S&P 500. All 11 sectors closed in the plus, but the ones that stood out the most were consumer discretionary, already consumer-related stocks, and consumer-related stocks also led the market. And the second one is technology. So yesterday, stocks related to the economy performed well. That means there was good news related to the economy, and on top of that, technology stocks also did well. This could mean that financial stocks also went up, so we can look forward to what's coming next. Let me explain in more detail. I will help you understand by going through the news step by step. First, let me give you an overview of the market. The market index rose from 71 to 96 yesterday. Now, among the 500 major industries that make up the S&P 500, only about 72% of the stocks have recovered to their previous levels. And more than 50% of the stocks that have risen above their 200-day moving average are also showing upward momentum, so it seems like the market is in an uptrend. This is how we can summarize the current situation. Is volatility also decreasing? Even during the recent rally in the Korean stock market, the VIX index stayed around 19. So now the number of stocks below the 200-day moving average is decreasing. The investor sentiment index is still staying below 65. In the market, greed is still quite high, and that's how you should see it. If you look at Joyce's stock right now, it seems like they've slightly changed the page. The search window was made much bigger at the top. Maxkin is here with me. 77 points, it's still in the overbought range. Right now in the market, there are a lot of stocks at their all-time highs, so we can interpret the market sentiment this way. Next, let's look at the performance of the United States original top picks. Recently, most of these stocks have shown a plus performance. If you look at the top of the chart, Tesla showed a steady upward trend and recorded a gain of 6.94%. I'll explain the detailed information so that you can understand it better through the data. The second best performing stock was AMD, which rose by 3.85% and stood out. Following that, Vista rose by 3.60%, Nvidia by 3.21%, Broadcom by 3.03%, Cred Technology by 3.03%, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company by 2.97%, The Trade Desk by 2.94%, Alphabet by 2.63%, Amazon by 2.50%, Meta by 2.43%, and ProShares Ultra. Bitcoin Exchange Traded Fund was up 2.04%, Uber up 1.42%, Talon Energy up 0.88%, 0.73%, and Palantir up 0.06%. And the rest of the stocks fell. Bitcoin is still at 10,808,860, so I'm reporting it. Next, Nexon Tracker is minus 0.30, and Celestica is also at the lowest point, but it showed a sharp drop of 0.49%. Yesterday, all three major United States stock indexes closed higher. The Dow Jones rose by 1.78%, the S&P 500 climbed by 2.05%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq surged by 2.47%, marking a strong rally. Now, there is a reason why all three major indexes surged like this. The biggest factor was expectations for interest rate cuts. The first piece of news is something we already know. As I explained in detail the other day, President Trump extended the 50% tariff on Chinese imports until July 9th, 2025. Where is the meaning behind this article? Recently, President Trump continued to make controversial remarks, so there were a lot of concerns. But since not much time has passed, all these concerns are still being raised. So now investors are seeing Trump's tariff threats as just threats, but they haven't actually been implemented or cancelled, or they're just being postponed. Therefore, to some extent, it is possible to interpret that the pattern has been read. What is the second positive news? It's the United States Consumer Confidence Index that was just released. Recently, for several months, whether it's the Consumer Confidence Index or the Consumer Sentiment Index, when these indicators were announced, most of the results were not very good. But yesterday, for the first time in a while, a positive figure was announced. For the first time in 4 years, we saw the biggest increase. So, as a result of the previous indicators, there were some positive effects recently, but overall, the trend hadn't been very good. Then, after a long time, we saw an unexpected improvement. We are seeing positive results. Now, the third point is the most important. This time, the third news about the stock market is about the guidance for the Korea Composite Stock Price Index market. I'll try to explain this part in more detail. On Tuesday, when the United States Treasury bond rally pushed the benchmark yield down, investors who were worried felt a sense of relief. And I'm here with you. A bond rally means that the price of bonds is going up, and as the price goes up, the yield or interest rate goes down. The bond rally means that the yields on benchmarks like the 10-year or 30-year government bonds have fallen. That's how you can see it. Now, and one more thing. The 2-year period of Kim Moo's $690 billion loan to the United States government is a positive factor for the United States' upward trend. So there was a United States Treasury auction recently, and the demand was strong, meaning that many people wanted to buy United States government bonds. This is generally interpreted as positive news for investors. The reason is, recently, there were concerns about the United States government's ability to handle the massive budget deficit. So, as a result, the United States long-term government bond yields have risen to their highest levels since 2007. This is the reason why concerns are lingering in the market. As a result, the S&P 500 index surged more than 2% on Tuesday, marking its biggest 2-week gain. This is due to improved investor sentiment, driven by factors such as the United States Consumer Confidence Index and a drop in Treasury yields. Earlier, I mentioned that the rebound in consumer confidence was a very positive sign, but it wasn't the only factor at play. And as global bond yields fell, liquidity improved, which is another major reason for the improved investor sentiment. That's how you should look at it. In the Asian market on Wednesday, for the first time in 30 years, the demand for United States government bonds was also showing signs of instability. But there was one more reason. The day before, Japan hinted that it could adjust its government bond issuance after the market turmoil. This added to the pressure here. If the market situation becomes unstable, or if government bond demand falls below expectations, the Japanese government could reduce the amount of bonds it issues, or possibly delay the timing of issuance. This is how the signal can be interpreted. To put it simply, if a country prints too much money, the supply increases. When the supply increases but demand doesn't keep up, prices can fall, or in some cases, the value can drop. In that case, interest rates can go up. If that happens, it could put a burden on the market. So for example, if Japan issues a new bond and the demand is lower than expected, they might have to reduce the supply, or if not, they might not be able to sell all of it. When you see these kinds of signals, it means the national market is becoming unstable. That's how you should look at it. If Japan's government bond yields fall, it could put a lot of pressure on the United States as well. The reason is, as I mentioned earlier, in the current unstable market situation, if the gap between the United States and Japan's government bond yields narrows, the possibility of an energy trade being settled in yen increases. So, the Japanese government said they would control the supply, and that's what happened. The ability to stabilize prices in Japan is low, and if prices become unstable, the country's ability to attract capital may decrease. If that happens, the difference in government bond yields between the United States and Japan will be maintained, so the possibility of the yen carry trade continuing will increase. This is how we can interpret the situation. Now let's take a look at the actual announcement from NVIDIA, a representative company in the field of artificial intelligence infrastructure. Are you interested? Let's get right to it today. This company will announce its actual earnings after the United States market closes on Wednesday and will provide guidance on whether strong performance can continue, which is of great interest to investors. Now let's move on to what's important. How much guidance NVIDIA will provide and how much guidance it will announce will determine the direction of the market. This is how we can understand the situation. Now I'll summarize the content in a way that's easy to understand. So, depending on the reason for the rise in stock prices, the impact on the United States stock market could be different. Yesterday, when I looked at the bond market, the stock market was showing the opposite trend. It's not necessarily always like that. Now, for example, due to concerns about stronger economic growth, the interest rates on safe assets like government bonds have risen, and that's why sometimes bond prices can go up. In this case, the stock market can be negatively affected, and in situations like this, however, if the economy recovers and the popularity of safe assets like bonds decreases, causing interest rates to rise, then the United States stock market can go up again. Now, but this time the situation is different. The reason why United States Treasury bond prices have recently plummeted and interest rates have soared is because, as a safe asset, United States Treasuries lost popularity when their value was at its peak. On top of that, when Japan's national debt soared, concerns about a credit rating downgrade arose, and as the risk of a Japanese government bond default increased, it triggered a drop in the value of United States government bonds. So recently, the situation has improved for United States consumer confidence, and concerns about the United States economy have eased due to the drop in Japanese government bond yields. So, when bond prices go up, that's what happens, and yesterday was a case like that. In summary, the possibility of the United States stock market moving in the opposite direction has decreased. That's how you can see it. Now, with lower government bond yields like this, can it reduce the financing costs for businesses? So, which two sectors benefited? One was the economic cycle stocks and the other was tech stocks. So, since it can lower the financing costs for businesses, that's why we saw economic cycle stocks perform well yesterday. Also, it could be a catalyst for the growth stocks rally. That's why the tech stocks also showed strong performance, so there's no need to overthink it. Next, I think we need to talk about Tesla. Recently, there hasn't been much good news about Tesla. Still, the stock price has remained steady. Let's see what happens next. Tesla's stock price soared on Tuesday, even though sales in April fell sharply. Chinese electric vehicle companies have started a new round of price wars, but the stock price still soared. On Tuesday, the stock price of Tesla, the electric car company run by Elon Musk, rose by 6.94%, closing at $362.89. Recently, the overall stock market has been performing quite well. The S&P 500 and the Dow Jones rose by 2.1% and 1.8% respectively, which contributed to Tesla's stock price increase. That's how you should look at it. Now, while the overall market's upward trend had an impact, what's even more important is the influence of Chief Executive Officer Musk. Musk, he said that he stays in the meeting room, the server room, or even on the factory floor for 24 hours completely immersed in his work. So, investors were very impressed to see him leave Washington, District of Columbia, and the influence of the United States government behind to focus on the company. If you look at it this way, you can understand. He actually showed what he could do at X. I'm back on Tesla again, and these days I'm basically at the factory 24 hours a day, working hard like this. Whether I'm in the meeting room, in the server room, or on the Tesla factory floor, I'm doing my best, spending almost all my time there working like this. That's why I must be super focused like this. From now on, I will be completely focused here. Where will I focus? On X, AI, and all of Tesla's history and energy. I will concentrate my time on these things. That's what he said. So according to this news, Tesla's stock price has risen by about 7%. If you look at it this way, you'll see. So what about investors who are related to Musk? There was no way to avoid being exposed to more sensitive sales data. So even though sales are dropping this much, the company is still reluctant and the stock price is plummeting, which is a very unusual situation. European automakers are forming associations, but depending on the data, how many new Tesla vehicles are being registered? In April, compared to the same period in 2024, the number of new Tesla registrations dropped by 49% to 7,261 units, and the total sales volume in the European Union also decreased by 53% to 5,475 units. If you look at the period from January to April 2025, Tesla sold 61,320 vehicles in Europe, which is a 39% decrease compared to the same period last year. Globally, Tesla's sales in the first quarter decreased by 13% compared to the previous year, which is the largest quarterly decline in the company's history. The first reason for this decline is the political opening of the Trump administration in the United States. This was a decisive factor, and secondly, there was a delay in Model Y's update. Because of the update, they couldn't move the factory. Due to these two reasons, we saw a sharp decline in both production and sales. Investors are waiting for a rebound. April might not have been the turning point yet, and it seems that the data for April is still uncertain. To explain, Musk said he would focus on Tesla and step away from politics, but this statement came after the actual announcement of Tesla's first quarter results on April 22nd. So, in essence, Musk started focusing on Tesla from May. That's how you should see it. Now this time, let's take a look at the Chinese market. In the first 8 weeks of the second quarter, Tesla's sales volume in China dropped by about 23% compared to the same period last year. This can't be seen as a normal trend anymore. Instead, it's happening in the original market. Due to the prolonged trade conflict between the United States and China, Chinese consumers are turning away from American products. This is considered to be the main reason, as you can see. And is that why sales in China are decreasing? China's electric vehicle manufacturer BYD announced price cuts on several models, and that's one of the reasons as well. Recently, BYD has been showing tremendous sales performance, and on top of that, they announced that they will lower prices and continue to increase demand. So, in the Tesla market, they are directly facing a rapidly changing situation, and that's how things are being sorted out. So, the price of Tesla in Korea is determined solely by the exchange rate, without any other factors. That's how you should look at it. Many analysts also say that Tesla's robotaxi has the potential to directly disrupt the transportation industry, and that's why it's being evaluated this way right now. Especially, Wedbush's Dan Ives is evaluating that Tesla's autonomous driving technology is ushering in a new golden age of autonomous driving. So now, Tesla's target stock price is set at $500. That's an incredibly optimistic outlook. Dan Ives is also positively evaluating Musk's renewed focus on Tesla. Well, but there are still some concerns left. First of all, the level of completion of fully autonomous driving technology is still an issue. Tesla is still only at the supervised driving stage, which means there must be a person, a driver, who can take over at any time for fully autonomous driving to be possible. And we also need to overcome regulatory approval for commercial operation. So, there are still a lot of hurdles that Tesla needs to overcome, and this part will take some time. Therefore, Tesla can be called a pioneer, but at the same time, it also faces a lot of obstacles and challenges. In the beginning, it was said that original price sensitivity would be included, and that's how it was announced. This means that people will have to supervise remotely, and at least there will need to be a monitor. That's what was mentioned. Therefore, it is expected that it will take even more time until it is fully implemented. And another thing, there are still questions about how much longer the remote driving will be maintained in practice after June, and how long it will take to improve its reliability. To be exact, at first, there is also a report that it will only start with about 10 small vehicles in a very limited area. So the important thing is how quickly it can go from 10 vehicles to 100, then 1,000, and eventually 10,000 vehicles. This is what we need to keep an eye on and try to anticipate. So overall, that's how I see it as well. I also have high expectations for Tesla's robotaxi launch. However, at the same time, I am also aware that there are still uncertainties regarding the technological completeness, regulatory acceptance, and various other factors, so I am maintaining a cautious approach to investment. The successful launch of robotaxis will clearly have a positive impact on Tesla's stock price and its overall valuation. However, recently there has been a negative sentiment surrounding the stock price. What is the reason for this? Even though Tesla's vehicle sales have declined, the stock price has remained strong. This is the part that we can see as a pre-reflection of future expectations. So, if the actual performance doesn't meet investors' expectations, there's a possibility that the situation could turn around again. This is my personal opinion. So, even in the mid-range of the United States top-selling cars, Tesla is still included at the top, and the reason it can't be excluded is right here. This is how you should look at it. Mejan, there are a total of 19 picks in the top picks. Among them, if you look at the top picks, you'll see names like Nvidia and Palantir. The reason Tesla hasn't been able to move up there yet is right here. There are still too many uncertainties, but as time goes on, there's a possibility things could get better. If you understand it this way, I think it would be good. I will show you the model chart of Tesla's stock. This is a stock buy, strong buying trend. Among the 26 analysts, there is not a single sell recommendation. 10 are neutral and 16 are buy recommendations. And even if you look at the one-year stock price chart, it's been rising steadily. If you look here, you can see that it broke through a strong resistance line and went up. This resistance line is at $357. So, if the stock price continues to stay above this level and doesn't fall back below, we might see another opportunity to test and confirm this support level. This is the kind of situation we can expect. Next, let's look at Tesla's stock price chart. On the chart, you can see that a bullish signal appeared on April 29th. At that time, the stock price was $285.88, and so far, the return has been 26.9%. And the SMART score is 63 points. And as you can see, it's a relatively strong field momentum, ranking in the top 19% overall. That's how you should look at it. Now, if you look here, currently on the trading screen, Tesla's stock price is being evaluated as high. That's the reason why it's here with me. The forward price earnings ratio has exceeded 209 times. So generally, stocks with such a high price earnings ratio are rare. But right now, Tesla's price earnings ratio has exceeded 200, which means the stock price is quite high compared to its earnings. That's how you should see it. Even so, if you keep looking here, you'll see that there's barely any volume and the price isn't going up. The reason for this is because, fundamentally, the company still shows very strong growth potential, which is why people are holding on to the stock. Even if you look at the Korea Composite Stock Price Index, on May 14th, Mei Sushinho was listed on the Korea Composite Stock Price Index. The short-term, mid-term, and long-term lines are all showing an upward trend, and they are arranged in order. Therefore, before the momentum of Tesla stock weakens, there is a high possibility that this kind of upward trend will continue, so it is a clear judgment to expect that. Recently, there was a big announcement regarding Bitcoin as well. Trimfer Media reported that a major investor requested a $2.5 billion loan for Bitcoin investment. This article was summarized by Artificial Intelligence News for your convenience. On May 27th, Reuters reported that Donald Trimfer's social media company, Trimfer Media and Technology Group DJT, announced that it would raise about $2.5 billion to diversify its capital and invest in Bitcoin. The company announced that it would raise funds by selling $1.5 billion worth of its own shares at the market price and issuing $1 billion worth of convertible bonds at a 35% premium in order to diversify its revenue sources. Bitcoin will be held as part of Trimfer Media's Treasury assets, along with cash and short-term investments, with a total value of $759 million as of the end of the first quarter. The company plans to provide custody services for Bitcoin holdings through Anchorage Platform, Equity Digital, and Crypto.com. Trimfer Media's Chief Executive Officer Devin Nunes said, "We see Bitcoin as a key pillar of financial freedom, and this move is part of our company's broader plan to align with the principles of American exceptionalism and to embrace innovative assets." The stock price of Trump Media, which operates the social media platform Truth Social, dropped by 8%. This move comes as the Trump administration is considering using digital assets, and it is the latest sign that major companies are adding Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies to their balance sheets to take advantage of rising token prices. MicroStrategy, known for its Bitcoin strategy, has aggressively invested in Bitcoin over the past 5 years, and last year its stock price more than sextupled, pushing its market capitalization to nearly $94 billion. By the end of 2024, the company held approximately 239,100 Bitcoin worth billions of dollars. Many other companies, including GameStop and several life sciences companies, have tried to follow MicroStrategy's success. Last month, Panthera Digital World announced that it would launch 21 Capital, a Bitcoin trading company, in collaboration with Tether and SoftBank Group, as well as with equity partners from the specialty industry. The combined company's value is $3.6 billion. Trimfer Media is a financial service that combines various assets and indices to diversify. Last month, Trump Media entered into agreements to acquire various small sales investment products, including security tokens and commercial paper, to diversify its portfolio. By adding real estate and country clubs, Trump Media has expanded its portfolio to include various sectors of the finance industry, allowing it to diversify its revenue streams. In the cryptocurrency industry, there are various sectors such as Trump, non-fungible token Bitcoin, and American Bitcoin, which is a new Bitcoin mining company, as well as stablecoins pegged to the United States dollar, and decentralized cryptocurrency platforms like World Rebirth and Financial, among others. However, the expansion into cryptocurrency accelerated last month when Donald Trump received a letter from several Republican members of the United States House of Representatives, including Representative Elise Stefanik, regarding the anticipated launch of a spot exchange-traded fund. Let me repeat one last time for clarity. The only reason I invest in Bitcoin-related stocks, strategy, and ETFs is for diversification. In fact, the prices of all goods and services in the world are determined by the laws of supply and demand. Likewise, in the same context, the large-scale Bitcoin investment plans of major media outlets can have a significant impact on the price of Bitcoin in the future.
Wu Xion, 25 years old.
Trump Media's direct purchase of Bitcoin in the market can serve as a catalyst for a short-term rise in Bitcoin prices. Especially, large-scale investments by institutional investors can attract additional capital by boosting the confidence of other industries or individual investors, which increases the potential for further inflows. Furthermore, the direct involvement of former President Donald Trump and Trump Media in Bitcoin investment can help improve the public perception of Bitcoin and accelerate its adoption as a mainstream financial asset. As a result, this can increase overall market confidence in Bitcoin and have a positive effect on the growth and expansion of the market. The high volatility of the cryptocurrency market is an inevitable part of its nature. In the future, the price trend of Bitcoin will be determined comprehensively by the overall market situation, regulatory changes, and various economic factors. However, the long-term story of Bitcoin is likely to continue within the framework of limited supply, halving, and sustained demand. Today's final selected content is about the United States stock market. The expert appearing in today's video is Ed Yardeni, This person is a well-known economist on Wall Street, and he emphasizes that since 2020, we should not leave the United States stock market and continue investing. He says that maintaining this kind of strategy is very important. Currently in the market, people are wondering how to view the future of the United States stock market. If you listen directly to what Ed Yardeni has to say, I think it will be helpful. Today's broadcast ends here. Thank you to everyone who stayed with us until the end of today's show. Today, the United States stock market closed, and later Ed Yardeni will announce his earnings. If he announces good earnings as expected, I think we can look forward to a positive upward trend. Tomorrow, I will also keep an eye on Nvidia's earnings results and various news so that I can greet you again with updates. Let's all keep fighting together until the day we retire from investing in the United States stock market. Have a happy day. Thank you.
Those who were with me just now, this is Ed Yardeni. Welcome. Actually, I already had this reservation, but originally I made it to invite Ed Yardeni. As soon as I heard about this topic, Ed Yardeni came to mind right away. If you look at it that way, you could say that you are almost like a technical analyst yourself. It's like just looking at the market's internal indicators and ignoring all the external noise. Sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't. But until now, I've just been watching quietly, just listening to the various opinions. So what's your current position? Previously, you mentioned 6,000 points, but looking at the current market conditions, it's more like 5,900 points.
I left out one thing that I was swayed by. I adjusted my outlook back up to 6,500 points. How many?
It seems like I've seen it before. It's hard for everyone to remember.
I said that I could live as freely as the president, but in reality, it wasn't like that. At first, Yancho started at 7,000, then dropped to 6,400 at the beginning of March, then to 6,000, and now it's back up to 6,500. So yes, we need to be vigilant about volatility coming from Washington. But overall, I still believe in the strong market. And right now, I think it's a strong market. I bought the dip and I added to my position on April 8th. Looking ahead, I think the market will go even higher over the next 10 years. My basic outlook remains unchanged.
Right now, Mr. Jadong Chacheom is also like a hybrid. A good market forecast uses both technical analysis and fundamental analysis. That's the most realistic approach. Think about using tools that suit you best.
Technical ideas appeal to data traders, especially when there is volatility in these types of assets. Data traders like volatility.
Originally, I had no particular connection to the founder mindset or the concept of momentum. Instead, I became a momentum investor simply because I was drawn to the idea of strong growth. From my perspective, the current bull market is being driven by various external factors such as government policies and central bank actions rather than by strong fundamentals. In reality, the bull market seems to be fueled by these kinds of things regardless of the underlying fundamentals.
Yes, one thing I've learned over the years is that the economy and the stock market can perform well regardless of Warren Buffett or anyone else. Anyway, I think what you just said is correct. In Washington, I spent a lot of time and energy trying to make things better for ourselves, our families, our communities, society, and businesses, and I never forgot that fact. And it works. Now, clearly what you're seeing is a rapid recovery of the American economy. If the market is stabilizing, you can see that clearly in the economic indicators. Weekly sales and purchases are positive, and the number of new job applications is also solid. The previous personal spending figures are still positive. Although there is still uncertainty about inflation, President Han Piem emphasized that a lot of capital is being invested in the United States manufacturing sector and that this is a positive sign. For cyclical analysis, maintain a basic analysis, and in party negotiations, use technical analysis. Today,
I explained again about the low birth rate issue, and part of it is related to Japan's low birth rate as well. There is also speculation that the Bank of Japan is considering measures to curb the rise in long-term government bond yields in order to support monetary policy normalization. This principle is very important. When the bond market reacts and interest rates rise, the stock market often shifts to a downward trend.
this is a very important relationship. In fact, recently, the bond and stock markets have been showing a kind of inverse correlation in response to the Fed's actions. President Dasipi made remarks about the summit on April 2nd and then repeated his stance on April 9th. That's because on April 8th, the yield on 10-year government bonds jumped from 4% to 4.5%. That day, the president's remarks caused confusion, and as a result, different investors, including the bond and stock markets, had to be on high alert. These two markets have recently shown a direct connection. In the past, bond investors and stock investors used to react in opposite ways, but now it's a more synchronized atmosphere. Even before the rate hike, the market was already judging that the end of the tightening cycle was near. The stock market is already looking ahead to 2026, and despite the current uncertainty, it has ultimately gone up. While things are good now, there are expectations that it will get even better in the future.
Last Friday, the situation was the same. On April 2nd, it was bullish. On April 9th, it was bearish. And then on Friday, it was bullish again and then bearish again. Now, it's hard to tell which side it is. So in this situation, how do investors in the market feel? And this time, since it's a policy change, how do you see this adjustment? This is a long-term policy, so it's hard to predict the exact impact, but some say that it will reduce the supply of 17 trillion won in the short term, while others see it as a policy that will only benefit existing investors even more. Which side do you lean toward?
From my perspective, I think it's more about increasing the deficit rather than reducing it. Currently, according to the law, the National Assembly Budget Office is forecasting that our deficit will increase by more than 20 trillion won, and they are warning us about this.
Small market vendors are saying that right now, the outlook is not very optimistic. The problem will have to be solved eventually, but today is not the day.
That's right. My impression was pretty much the same. Until the mayor of Pyongyang directly addressed the defectors, I also didn't take any action. There was a moment when the mayor of Pyongyang directly addressed the defectors. For a few months in 2023, when yields suddenly jumped from 4% to 5%, and even on April 8th, there was a basis trade issue. That was clearly a reaction from sensitive investors, but they're not the only ones in this game. On November 1st, 2023, the Ministry of Finance said that when investors try to short bonds, the government tends to issue more short-term bonds.
Thank you.